Hey, good afternoon, y'all. This is Special Correspondent Todd Smith here over at My Philippine Dreams. Ned cannot make it today as we're going to be talking about the Bureau of Immigration and blacklisting, and he's pretty much scared to death. He's actually got a tattoo on his back that says STD, and it's not for sexually transmitted diseases. It's actually scared to death. So I'm actually sitting in. We're going to be talking about another YouTuber, I forgot who it was talking about blacklisting. And as foreigners living in the Philippines, visiting the Philippines, studying in the Philippines, it's something that we have to keep in mind. Basically what blacklisting is if you don't follow the rules and regulations in the country in which you're residing, in this case the Philippines, they're not going to want you to hang around. And they're going to probably go through with a deportation order and blacklist you as a result. It's a process that they go through. There is actually due process when it comes to this, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit. And we're also going to be looking at the tail end of this, a list of the reasons that you can actually get deported and blacklisted from the Philippines. But first up, we're going to talk about the Bureau of Immigration. The Philippines Bureau of Immigration operates under the Department of Justice. It was founded, I believe, on September 3rd, 1940, so it's a pretty old institution, as a result of the Philippine Immigration Act of 1940. Its job, as you might have guessed, is to enforce the immigration laws within the country. In the Philippines, you have this transient population that's always going through. Don't forget that it's not just Westerners coming here to go on vacations. The vast majority of immigrants, people coming through, people getting visas and staying within the Philippines are actually from other Asian countries. You got students, you got workers, you got people coming through for a variety of reasons. So it's their job to keep track of all that. And they're pretty successful at it. In 2014, I believe, they apprehended 733 foreign nationals who had overstayed their visas or had been wanted for other incidences, which is an increase of 379% from the number that they apprehended in 2011. There's actually also an ongoing campaign to have, if a Filipino or somebody thinks that a foreign national is overstaying, they can report them, and there's a monetary reward for that. When it comes to money, it is also a good moneymaker. In 2014, it collected over 3 billion pesos in immigration fees, overstaying fees, and all that stuff, which is good for the economy. Immigration officers that you interact with all have 4 years of college. They've applied for the civil service examination, they've passed the civil service examination, and they actually have an academy that they attend up in Clark, up in Pampanga, on Luzon, that they all go through before they become actual immigration officers. My experiences with immigration have all been positive. They've been very professional, they get a thankless job, they work very hard, and they get it done. And sometimes the clientele that they're dealing with, that would be us, can be a difficult population to work with. So I give my props to them. And I'm not just saying that to kiss their butt or anything, to not get in trouble with them or whatever. I'm just reporting it as it is. I have seen other guys have problems with BOI, but 99% of those cases, it's all been issues that they've brought themselves. So it wasn't BOI that was the fault, it was the actual individual. So basically a blacklist order. A blacklist order disallows entry into the Philippines. It's different than a deportation order. And a deportation order arises when somebody does something wrong here. They get apprehended, they get in trouble, they cause some chaos. The BI is informed, and a deportation order starts. The BI actually does the deportation order. It first goes to the Board of Special Inquiry, who checks the facts, gets all the information, and then makes a recommendation to the BI Board of Commissioners. And if the person is deported, they 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, they will be blacklisted. They will not be allowed to come back to the Philippines for a period of time. And we'll also look at those periods of times in a little. Some recent examples of people who have been blacklisted and or as a result of deportation orders. First up is Coco Narak. You might remember this guy. He's a Thai national who was working at Cognizant Technologies in the Philippines. He was working at a BPO, and he made some really rude and offensive comments about Filipinos. And I'm not going to repeat what he said, but he made him on his Facebook page because he's an absolute genius. The authorities were obviously able to, identify who he was, and he was deported. And again, it's a process, it's due process. He's notified, they're saying, hey, listen, this is unacceptable behavior, you can't be living in our country, and making all these derogatory statements. And the deportation proceedings began. And during this whole process, if you're being deported, you can actually say, hey, listen, I concede, I did something wrong, I'll voluntarily deport myself. And again, you have to deal with the blacklisting, but that's something that you can deal with on the other end. So that's Coco Narak. He got deported and blacklisted for making really stupid comments on the internet. Gee, the internet's great. The next one up is Mark Susselbeck. He is actually a German national. If you remember the murder of the transgender in Palawan not too long ago, he was actually her husband. And what he did was he went to where Pemberton, this corporal, this U.S. Marine corporal, was being held, and he tried to climb the fence and get at Pemberton. And the Philippines didn't like that, because that's not due process. So they apprehended him, and he voluntarily deported himself, and he is blacklisted. But I guess he's addressing it because he actually wants to come back and see the grave and all that. So that's another example. That's the second example. The third example is this guy, Thomas van Bursum. And he was a Dutch national. He was a kid. He's like early 20s. And he was here protesting the president's State of the Nation address. And he got in this cop's face. He got into a PNP officer's face and was verbally berating him until the guy started crying. As a result, he later went to the airport. He found out he had a blacklisting order. They took him back to BI. He was deported and blacklisted. So those are three examples, recent examples of what's been going on in terms of blacklisting. And the thing about blacklisting, when you have a deportation order, you know about it. You'll be notified. You'll go to the hearings. You'll provide information. They'll tell you what's going on. They'll make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So it's like a little trial thing going on. When you have a blacklist, sometimes you're not aware of it. You won't be aware of it until you go to the airport to get on your plane, and they say, sir, sorry, you got a blacklist, and then they'll bring you to BI and they'll process and they'll determine what they're going to do. So that's something to keep in mind. So that can be a bit of a shocker right there. You can appeal a blacklist. If you get blacklisted for 3 years, 6 months, 5 years, whatever it is, you can appeal it to the BI commissioner. I don't know the success rates, because usually, especially with the ones for like 5-year blacklists and stuff, those are some pretty egregious offenses that I don't think the BI is going to let you back in on. Some of the other ones, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and that stuff, some of them are less serious, so maybe there is some leeway with that. So that's enough babbling about blacklisting. And also another thing to keep in mind, if you've met a Filipina and you've gotten married and you've had children and you've purchased a house here, the two of you have purchased a house, that doesn't matter. In the face of a blacklist, you're still blacklisted. So all that is gone. If you want your family and all that to come with you, that the onus of responsibility is going to be on you. So again, this is a situation of being careful what you invest depending on what you're doing. I mean, if your nose is clean and you're doing the right thing and all that, you're not going to have a problem 9 times out of 10 because there were some problems earlier, but that's for another video. But if you're doing stupid stuff, and we're going to get into some of that stupid stuff, and you're not following the rules and regulations and laws of the Philippines, you could find yourself, your head spinning very quickly and being ushered out the door. So without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the offenses that can result in deportation and blacklisting.